Hello and welcome to Life Changing Tuition's Summer School 5 booklet. So today we'll be going through an explanation of how to solve each question. So let's begin with ratio and proportion. Okay, so it takes a social jogger 15 minutes to run 12 kilometers. So how long will it take to run 10 kilometers? So we can write down the information that we know. 12 minutes with 2.5 kilometers. So then 10 kilometers will just be the same scale. So given that 2.5 times by 4 is equal to 10, we can just do 15 times by 4 to find our answer, which is 60 minutes. And that's equivalent to 1 hour. So question 2. Curtain material costs £10.20 per metre, so then 10 metres will cost £10.20 times by 10. And that's equal to our answer of £102. Next is question 3. The ratio of men to women on a bus is 5 to 4, so we can write that down. And then if there are 12 women, how many men are there? So then 12 women is equivalent to multiplying by a scale of 3, so it'll be 15. 15 men. Okay, and then 25 large plastic bottles can be recycled to make one fleece jacket, so we can write that down. One fleece jacket. And then 200 bottles, well, we know that 25 multiplied by 8, I believe, yes, multiplied by 8 is equal to 200, so then we do the same to our one fleece jacket, and it's 8 fleece jackets. So also you could do 200 divided by 25, which will give you an answer of 8 as well. So you could do that too, and yeah, that will give you the answer of 8 fleece jackets. Okay, a pile of hay can feed 12 horses for 15 days. So how long would the same pile feed 20 horses? So we know that it's 12 horses and 15 days. So to find the total work done, you can use the column method. 12 multiplied by 15. So 2 times 5 is 0. Carry the 1. 1 times 5 is 5. Plus 1 is 6. And then 2 times 1 is 2. And 1 times 1 is 1. So it's 180. Okay, and then you take your 180 and you divide it by 20, which gives you the answer of 9. So the answer will be 9 days. Okay, now we move on to the next question, which just bear with me because they aren't in order. It's here. Question 6. The ratio of height to width of an old television is 3 by 4. If the height of a television screen was 21 centimeters, find the perimeter. So we can also draw this out to help us visualize, so we know, well, that's not quite 3 by 4, but we can imagine 3, 4, 4, 3. And then we also have the height being 21, so then we have to find the perimeter. So the height is 21, so we are following the same scale of 3 by 4 and then 21 to something. So we're multiplying by 7 here, so we do the same to the other side, and it'll be 28. But then it's asking for the perimeter, so what we do is 28 times 2 plus our 21 times 2, because we're adding up each side. So it's like doing 21 plus 21 plus 28 plus 28. So how we can do this? Well, 28 times 2, we can use the column method. That'll be, well, 8 times 2 is 16, 2 times 2 is 4, so 56, and then 21 times 2 is 42. So we can do 56 plus 42, which will equal to 98. So this will be 98 days. Or not 98 days, 98 centimeters. Okay, question 7. A pile of food can feed 12 rabbits for 15 days. How long could it feed 20 rabbits? This seems very similar to question 5. Yep. Okay, so it's the same method. We do 12. We take out 12 rabbits and multiply by 15 days. So that's like the work. So this is the equivalent of the work of, well, 180 rabbits, you could say. So then you're dividing that into the 20 rabbits. And it's the same answer of 9 days. Okay, question 8. So, below are the ingredients needed to make 16 gingerbread men, and Sam wants to make 24. Work out how much of each ingredient is needed. So, what we can do is find how many of the ingredients are needed to make 1 gingerbread man, and then multiply that back by 24. Or we can do another scale. It could be dividing by 4 and then times it by 6, or anything else. So what we'll do in this case is we'll divide by 2 to get the scale of 8 gingerbread men, and then we'll multiply by 5. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take out 180 grams of flour, and when this is divided by 2, we'll have 60. So what we're writing here is 8 gingerbread men. So 60 grams of flour. 40 divided by 2 will be 20. 110 divided by 2 will be 55. And 30 divided by 2 will be 15. So this is a scale for 8. So now we have to multiply by 3. So we're multiplying by 3. What we can do is 60 times 3, which is... not 60 there. I've written that wrong. So this will still be the 20, but then this will be 19. Okay, so 90 multiplied by 3 will be 270 grams of flour. For ginger, it will be 60. For butter, it will be on 165. 165. Yep. And for sugar, it will be 90. Oh, no. Sugar, it will be 45. Okay. Question 9. It takes Betty 45 minutes to knit a scarf, so how long will it take to knit 6 scarves? So, how we're going to do this is we are going to take out 45 minutes to knit 1 and simply multiply that by 6. So 45 and then multiply by 6. So 45 times 6, well, we can do this on the column method, or we can do it on the column method. So 5 times 6 is 30, and then 4 times 6 is 24, plus 3 is 27. So the answer is 270. We'll write that here. Question 10. 3 friends follow a recipe for making fruit smoothie. And then it says to use 3 times as many raspberries as blackberries, and also add 2 strawberries. Okay? So Ria is then making a smoothie using 9 blackberries. So how many raspberries does she use? Okay, so we know that 3 times as many raspberries as blackberries. So the scale of raspberries to blackberries will be 3 to 1. So then 9 blackberries will be multiplied by 9, so it should be 27. Then for part B, Amy makes a larger smoothie and she puts 50 pieces of fruit all together. So how many blackberries does she use? Well, we know that it says to add 2 strawberries. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 50 minus 2 to find the scale of raspberries and blackberries that she uses, which is 48. And then we know that for every 3 raspberries, there's 1 blackberry. So 3 plus 1 equals 4. So 48 divided by 4 equals 12. And then what we do with this is we take our 12, and we know that that is the that's the scale. So what we've got to do is take our 12, and that's going to be the number of blackberries. So the answer for part B is 12. Then for question 11. For every 3 strawberry jellies in a bag of sweets, there are 4 cherries. So we can write down that information. 3s, there is 4 cherry. If a large bag contains 12 strawberry jellies, so 12s, how many cherry jellies are there? So this is just multiplying by 4, so that will be 16. Okay, question 13. Maya wants to make some purple paint. She knows that she can make purple by mixing red and blue paint in the ratio 4:5. So we can note that down, red to blue, 4:5. And then A. She has 12 litres of red paint, so how much blue paint will she use? Well, we can just do that and multiply by 3 to get 15 litres. So 15 will be the answer to part A. I just realised that I wrote the answer in the wrong place for the previous question. Okay, let's quickly go back to question 12. Maya draws a plan of her school using a scale of 1 centimetre to 12 metres. On the plan, the garden is 2 centimetres wide, so what's the real width? So what we have to do here, because we know that it's 2 centimetres wide on the plan, we just multiply by 12, and that gives us 24. So the real width will be 24, and you can know your units of meters. Okay, now back to question 13. How much purple paint will that make? So all you've got to do here is your 12 plus 15, which is equal to 27. 27. And then for part C, Elliot needs 36 litres of purple paint, so how much red paint will he need? Well, you take your, you know that 4 plus 5 equals 9. So what you do is you do 36 over 9 equals 4. And then you do your 4 multiplied by 4, which is equal to 16. So then that will be your answer for part C. 14. Bella makes purple paint by mixing blue paint and red paint in the ratio of 4:3. How much blue paint is needed to make 21 litres of purple paint? Okay, so what we do with this one is we know the ratio of blue, mixing blue, okay, so blue to red, 4:3, and 4 plus 3 is 7. 21 over 7 equals 3. So all we have to do is, because it's asking for blue paint, we do 3 times 4, which is equal to 12. And then 12 will be our answer for 14. Okay, James draws a plan of his school using a scale of 1 centimetre to 6 metres. Okay, we can just remember that. And then on the plan, the playground is 5 centimetres long, so what's the real length of the playground? So we do 5 centimetres and multiply that by 6. So it's equal to 30 metres, because for every 1 centimetre on the plan, there is 6 metres in real life. So 5 centimetres times 6 equals 30 metres. Okay, next we move on to the next section, which will be on page 4. And that is MVR series. Okay, so here we're looking at the shape that comes next. Okay, so question 1. We can see that the shape is rotating 45 degrees anti-clockwise in each time. So we can just expect the same thing. So with that, we can rule out B, because the arrow must be on the left side, as well as C, and E. And now we can pick between D and A, and we can see the difference is the length of the arrows here and here. So looking at the shape, we can see that it's D and not A. Okay, question 2. This one's looking at the movement of shapes. So the shapes are quite simply just moving around, it seems. And yes, they are. Yep. So they're just moving one shape down and they're moving anti-clockwise. So considering that, we can expect the hexagon to be in the bottom right, the kite to be in the top right. So even knowing that, we can cross out A, B. Oh no, we cannot cross out B. So remember, we're looking at having the hexagon. So yeah, the hexagon will be in the bottom right, and the kite will be in the top right. Okay, so looking at that, we know that the answer would be C. Okay, so the answer for question 2 is C. Okay, now we're going to move on to question 3. So this shape is rotating, but the arrows are also alternating. So we can expect a double-sided arrow in our answer. So for question 3, it cannot be B or D or E considering that. And then we're looking at the way that the shape is facing. So given that it's rotating, that is 45 degrees anti-clockwise each time, it cannot be A and it will be C. Okay, question 4. We can see that the pattern of the lines is changing. So instead of moving from bottom left to top right, it's moving in the opposite direction and it's alternating between each shape. So we can expect it to be moving this way in our answer. So given that, we know that the answer cannot be the answer will not be B or E. Okay. And then we're looking at the black dot. So it's changing from white to black in each time, so it cannot be A. And then we're looking at how the black dot is also moving one place each time, so we can expect it to be at the bottom. So knowing that, the answer is D. Okay, now we're going to move on to...
So what would have been question 5 on the video that you were looking at, but it's actually question 20 on your booklet. We're just going to go through it now. So the star, you can see 1, 2, 3, right? Look at the changes. Star's always going from the right side to the left side to the right side to the left side. So what side should it be over here? It should obviously be on the left side. Okay, draw that right in. You can see it can't be option B or option E for that case. Now look at the lines. So these are horizontal stripes, and then there are vertical stripes inside, and then horizontal, then vertical. So this one's going to be vertical striping, so you can cancel out option A, and you can also cancel out option D. That leaves you with option C. With the star on the left side, vertical striping, you can also see the star is slowly moving down towards the bottom, right? But option C is the answer there.
Question 6. So for question 6, we can see that the number of dots are increasing by 1 each time. So given that that is the case, we can see it goes 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So this time it will be 6. So it cannot be A, nor can it be C or E. And now we're looking at the position. So we can see that there are consistently 3 on the side. So B is the answer. Then for question 7, we can see that there are 5 diamonds at the top, and there's gradually 1 diamond moving to the bottom in each shape. So we can expect 5 diamonds at the bottom with 1 at the top. So the answer is C. Next, we can see that in question 8, the shape is rotating 45 degrees clockwise each time. So the answer will be A. Okay, now we are going to be looking at page 5, which is here. So in page 5, we can see that the number of stars at the bottom is increasing by 1 each time, so it cannot be option A. And the star is moving, is reflecting each time, so it cannot be E. And then the number of lines in the middle is increasing by 1 each time, so there'll be 4, and that means that it's option D. Okay.
So what would have been question 10 in the video, but it's question 25 in your booklet. Look at what's happening with this series. So look at left to right, it seems that you've split this in half. The next one, you seem to have added another line. I assume there's going to be another line that is added here, and then again you can see another line is added. So it seems to be not necessarily the lines, but you can see the sections, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. There should be 4 sections here. This one obviously has 5 sections. Okay, so we have to choose whichever option in our options right here, which have 4 options, 4 sections, which is option A right here.
Looking at question 11. So for question 11, we can see that the shape is going to be reflected in the y-axis each time. So it cannot be B or D. Then the line with the circle at the end is also moving. So in shape 1, it's in the bottom right, and then we can expect that in shape 2 it'll be in the bottom left. Then shape 3, it's in the top left. Shape 4, it's moving again and again. Okay, so we can then rule out A, and now between these we're looking at the colours. So we can expect the colours to be with black at the top. Given that, the answer will be C. Okay, so for question 12, we can see that the number of dots on the lines are going to be increasing by 2 each time. So given that it's increasing by 2, it goes 1, 3, 5, and then 7. So this time we can expect 9. So it could be A, it can't be B, it can't be C. For D, no, and E, no. So A. Okay, question 13. So question 13 is looking at okay, so here we can see that the L shape is changing pattern. So it's moving from vertical to horizontal, it's moving from this orientation to this, and we can expect it to be like this one in our shape. So considering that, it cannot be A, B or E. Okay, now we are looking at the pattern of the pattern of the shape at the bottom. So the shape at the bottom is always hashed, so it cannot be D. Okay, and that leaves our answer as C. So that is C, A, and C. Okay, Next, we are looking at the rotation of the shape in the top right, and we can see that it's rotating by 90 degrees in each shape. So in the next one, we can expect it to be like this. So we can rule out C, D, or E. And then we're looking at the rotation of the shape in the bottom right. So we can see that it goes plus, minus, and then the next will be plus. So it must be A. Okay, question 15, we can see that the dot is going to be at the second highest point, so it can't be A, C, or D. And then we can see that the point here in the top right is also rotating by 90 degrees each time, 90 degrees clockwise. So the answer will be B. Okay. Next is question 16. We can see that the two lines move from the top right to the top left, and that means that in our shape it will be in the top left, so it cannot be D, it cannot be D. Okay, so now that we know that, we can also look at the hexagon. So the hexagon remains unchanged except for in the inside, where the white circle moves by 1 point each time, whereas the black dot moves by 2 each time, and both are moving clockwise. So we can expect the white dot to be in the top right corner, so that will be the case in B. So the answer will be B. Next is question 17. So we can see that we have a grid of 4 by 6, then it goes to 4 by 4, then 4 by 3, and then it goes to 4 by 5. So this has a length of 6, this has a length of 4, this has a length.
So question 32. Apologies for all of the drawings on here already. I'm just going to rub these out. But what we can see basically here, and how you want to think through this, is first of all there's loads of squares. So more than likely it's going to be a number pattern. You want to count something like the number of squares, the number of black squares, things like that. Okay, now what we're going to look at is obviously first of all the number of squares. A quick way to count that up is you just times the width, so 4 squares by the length 6 squares. Okay, that gives you 24 total squares here. Next one is 16, next one is 12, next one is 20. Now if you're looking at what is the sequence here, well this one goes minus, let me draw in black. This one goes minus 8, minus 4, and then plus 8, and you can assume the next one is going to be maybe plus 4, right? Minus 8, minus 4, plus 8, plus 4, minus 8, minus 4. That's the sort of sequence that we've got going on here. That would mean that we'd have to have the next option would be 24 squares, right? So what we'd do is we'd cancel out any of them that are not 24 squares. You're left with either A or E. Now, how do we differentiate between these two? The only difference here is the number of squares, okay? You can see there are 6 squares, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares, black squares in option E, and there is 5 squares in option A. So this is a technique you can use after that, is differentiating is between the two options, because that allows you to figure out what should I look for in the sequence now. So what I'm going to look for is the number of black squares. So you can see there are 6 here, there's 4, there's 3, there's 5, okay? Not really any pattern here, but potentially something that should stay the same. So what we can see is there's 6 black squares, and there is 6 in terms of the height of the squares. There's 4 black squares, 4 in terms of the height. 3 black squares, 3 in terms of the height. 5 black squares, 5 in terms of the height as well. So that seems to be something that has to stay the same throughout the sequence, okay? So there's something that's changing, there's something that's staying the same. So this is an unusual question, but it's allowing us, it's showing us that something is going to have to stay the same the whole way through. It's the same way, for example, in question 31, where you'd expect that this hexagon has to always be present, right? And that's something that we've got going on here. So that means we have to have 6. If we're going to have 24, if we're going to have 6 on the height, we're going to have 6 black squares. So it can't be option A because there's only 5, meaning it's going to have to be option E.
Okay, so now we can be looking at the rectangle, so the placement of the rectangle. Now the rectangle moves and it will be on the left side, so we can rule out A. And then we're looking at the placement of the oval. So the oval is always is what our arrow is pointing to. So given that, it could still be both shapes. Okay. Now we're looking at the pattern inside the rectangle. So from what we can see that in this shape it's slightly lighter, and you can see that it's gradually becoming denser with more dots being added. So given that, our answer would be E. Okay, so for question 19. For question 19, the shape is being rotated 45 degrees clockwise each time. So we can expect the line to be at the top, and that's the case in all of our options. We can expect the arrow to be pointing this way, and then we can expect our dot to be black. So we can rule out A and D. Now, we are looking at two very similar lines, except that in C it is slightly thicker. So, considering that, our answer would be B. Okay, now we are looking at a pattern of colour. Okay, so the shape is actually rotating by 90 degrees clockwise in each time. Other than that, there is nothing changing. So all we're looking is for the next rotation. We can expect there to be a black line here. Ooh. So with that, we can cross out A, B, and E. So now we are looking at differences within the shape. And when we look at that, we can cross out... Which ones can we cross out? Well, we can cross out our option of D, and the answer will be C. Okay, now we're looking at the direction of the lines. So they go from, well, top left to bottom right, to horizontal, to here, and then vertical, and then here. So what we can expect next, given that it's moving 90 degrees or 45 degrees each time, would be a line that is horizontal. So if we're expecting a horizontal line, then the answer will be D. Okay, next we have 22. We're going to assume that it's asking for an answer here. So, oh no, it isn't. No, there's an empty space. It's asking for an answer here. Okay, so we can expect the white area to be at the bottom, which is the case in A, B, C, D, E. And then we can expect it to have a circle. So we can rule out B, C, and E. Then we're looking at the grey and black. So it's moving from grey on the left and black on the right to something else. So this seems to be going grey, black, black, grey, and then grey, black. So it will be a similar pattern at the top. So we have grey, black, black, grey. So we can assume that there'll be grey on the right. So with that, our answer would be D. Then 23. So we can see that the arrow is rotating. It's going 45 degrees. Oh no, it's going 90 degrees anti-clockwise in each shape. So given that, we can assume that, or we know that it will be facing this way. So with that, we can rule out B. B. Okay, now we're looking at the arrowheads. So our arrow will have it will be like the arrow below it, except doubled. So that's the case here, and also in our other shapes. So we can expect two heads at the top, so we can rule out A and B. Now between D and E, we can see that our arrow has a line here. So that means that it wouldn't be E and it would be D. Okay, now we have our last few questions for MVR. We can see that there are two lines in our first shape, and then these two lines also have one more line added. Okay, so we're going from 3 lines to 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. So 3, 4, so we could assume 5 in ours maybe. And then there are, oh no, not quite 1, 2, there's 5 here. 5 here. 6 here. Okay, interesting pattern. So what we could assume here, because it's going 3, 4, and then something 5, 5, and then 6, is that we would have 4 lines.
So it would have been question 24, but is question 39 in your booklet. Let's look at the actual sequence here again. So particularly whenever you come across something that has multiple lines, again, we're looking for number, because these are all the same thing. More than likely, there's going to be a sequence in terms of the number of things, number of lines, or number of intersections, okay, or number of, for example, squares that it makes inside, something like that. So what I can see is there's 3 lines here, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 lines here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 lines here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 lines here as well. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 lines. Okay, not really much of a pattern there. 3, 5, 5, 6. Not really much of a pattern. So let's look at intersections. 1, 2. So I'm just going to cancel these out. And then 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, you can already see a pattern here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so this time it's what I'm looking at is like where the lines cross each other. Right, that's an intersection. So you got 2, 3, this one should be 4, 5, 6, 7. Very simple stuff. So which one of these have 4 intersections? You can see option B has 1, 2, 3, 4 intersections, okay? If you look at option C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's not going to work. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's a joining here, so potentially it's a bit, it could be counted as intersection, that would be 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again, that doesn't work, and this one is a 1, 2, 3 only. So you're left with option B as the sort of only real one that works. So another reason option D wouldn't be considered there is, again, you can see there's no example in a sequence where you have a line not going actually through the other line. This one didn't go through the other line, it just stopped right there, which seems to be something that isn't happening in the sequence. So you don't want to introduce a new thing that hasn't happened before. Option B is obviously the best. You're looking for the single best option, right? And this is going to be the best option to fit into this sequence.
5. So 25, we can see that there will be a rectangle at the top, which is the case in all of our questions. But then there will also be 2 lines. So because there are 2 lines, it cannot be B or D. And then we're also looking at the orientation or the direction of the line going through the rectangle. So the line is rotating by 45 degrees each time. So 45 degrees clockwise, that is. So, knowing that, we know that the line will be facing this way. And because of that, we can now rule out A and C and say our answer is E. Okay, 26. So 26, we're looking at the square in the middle where it is rotating by 45 degrees clockwise each time. So in this case, it will be like this. Okay, so now we know that, we can rule out A, B, C. It could be D and E. So our answer is D. So let's move to page 7. Page 7 will be up here. Okay, we're doing VR, completing the calculation. Okay, so 23 plus... Okay, so what the key to this is to find the value on one side and then just follow the same rule on the other. So remember your BIDMAS. So 23 minus 16. I'll write this in black. So our 23 minus 16 will be equal to 7. And then we have to get the same value on the other side. So what we can do first, because it's 54 divided by something plus 1, we can do minus 1. So we know that we need to get a value of 6 from 54 divided by something. So we know that 54 divided by 9 is 6. So what we can do is then write 9 here, and then our answer is 54 divided by 9 plus 1, because 54 divided by 9 is 6, and then plus 1 will then be equal to 7. So this is just writing out our workings, and then that's our answer. So 28 divided by 4 minus 3. So let's find the value of that side. So 28 divided by 4. Well, 28 divided by 4 is the same as that's 7. 7 minus 3 is then 4, so it will have a value of 4. So what divided by 11 is 4? Well, you could do 11 times 4, which is equal to 44. Next, question 13. 14 plus 3 minus 5 is equal to 2 times something. Well, considering our BODMAS, we do addition first, so 14 plus 3 is 17, minus 5 is 12. Oh, I'll just write this in black. And then 2 times something is 12, so the answer is 6. Now I'll write that in red. Okay, question 4. 16 times 4 is equal to 5 times 11 plus something. Well, 16 times 4, we can do the column method, but that equals to 64. And then 5 times 11 plus something is equal to 64. So we can do 5 times 11 first, which is 55. And then plus something is 64. So 64 minus 55. And that equal to 9. So the answer for question 4 is 9. Next is question 5. And for question 5, we're looking at 99 minus something, minus 71, which is equal to, well, 99 minus 71, that's 28. And then something times 6 minus 2 is equal to 28. So as we know, we always do multiplication first. So first we have to subtract 2. So that's 26. Yes, okay. So what we're looking at is the value that we have will subtract by 2. So what we have to do is add 2. So it'll be 30. Then something times 6 is 30. So then 30 divided by 6 is equal to 5. Okay, 20 times 5 minus 43 is equal to 8 times 8 minus something. Well, 20 times 5 minus 43 is the same as 100 minus 43, which is then equal to 57. And then 8 times 8 minus something is equal to 57. So 8 times 8 is 64. 64 minus 7 is equal to 57. So the answer to our question will be 7. Okay, next is going to be question 7, where 35 plus 15, which is 50, So 35 plus 15 is 50, and then that divided by 5 is 10. And then, so, okay, if we write this out, it will be 50 divided by 5, which is 10. And then, because of BODMAS, we have to add before we subtract, so it'll be 4, so yeah, we're basically doing 10 minus 4, which is 6. So both sides must equal to 6. 6. Okay, so then something times 2 will equal to 6. So what we're looking at here will be, or if we've done something wrong, so we can see that, yeah, 2 times 2 is 4. 35 plus 15. So, okay, 35 plus 5 is 15. 15 divided by 5 is 10. 10 minus 3 plus 1. So we add, and that's 4. So it will be 6. So something times 2 times 2. If I haven't got this correct. Well, it seems that, okay, well, the answer's been made without following BIDMAS because it's expecting an answer of 2. But considering this, 2 times 2 times something equals 6. So what we're looking at is 1.5 would ideally be the answer. So yeah, 1.5 times 2 times 2. Okay. For 8. 48 divided by 4 plus 2 times 3 is equal to 2 times something times 3. Well, first we find what 2 times 3 is, which is 6. And then we do division before addition. So 48 divided by 4. Well, 48 divided by 4 is 12. So 12 plus 6 is 18. So we take our 18 when we know that 2 times 3 times is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. So the answer to 8 is 3. Okay. 3 times 11 is 33, plus 7 is 40. So then 15 times 2 is 30, plus something, which will be 10. Then we do multiplication before subtraction. So 10 times 8 is 80, minus 49. So 80 minus 49 is then, 80 minus 49 is then equal to 31. So then we do 6 times something, minus 11. So 31 plus 11 is equal to 42. And then 6 times something, well, equals 42. So 42 divided by 6, well, we know that that's 7. 6 times 7 is 42. So the answer will be 7. Next, let's find question page 8. That's here. So rearrange the words. So in the following questions, you're given 2 words. Choose one letter that can be moved from one word on the left to the word on the right, making 2 new words. You cannot rearrange any letters, but the letter that you move can fit anywhere in the second word. So, for question 1, we have probe and rove. So what we're going to have here is robe and prove. So it will be robe and prove. So we can write prove here. I'll just reduce my font size for this one. Okay, then we have fright and fiends. So here we're going to have fight and then friends. Okay, and then we have waiter and bran. So we're going to have water, well, I won't write the water, but we'll have brain. And then we have scoot and hopped. So So this one will be soot and chopped. And then shame and trough. This will have same and through. Then we have dream and wed. So we're going to have dram and weed. Then for 7, we have shave and park. So shave and park, we are going to have spark. Then cream and trip. Cream and trip, we are going to have cram and tripe. So tripe will be the answer. Naive and lead will be, or we'll have knave and lied. Pleat and mow, we will have Pete and model, so model. Could and bond will have bound. Lived and alley will have valley. For packed and lined, we are going to have paste and linked. Then latter and mill, we have metal. For Nash and door, we'll have donor. For blind and ease, we'll have lease. Chain and bet, we'll have beat. Rebel and stale, we'll have real and stable. For pitch and rave, we'll have pith and crave. PS. Okay, so comprehension GPS. So let's read the extract. For hundreds of years, people have used paper maps to help them travel to different places. Using maps, people can learn distances, directions, and the location of landmarks such as rivers or mountains. While these traditional maps have served people well, a new kind of map is rapidly superseding them. A new invention called GPS, or Global Positioning System, is being used more and more in place of traditional paper maps. GPS uses satellite technology to provide information about present location and a desired destination. To better understand how it works, imagine that Travis is lost. Using GPS, Travis can see where he is and what is nearby. What is more, GPS can tell him the fastest way to get to the place he wants to go. As you can see, GPS can be very handy. This is why GPS is now being included on cell phones and in cars. With such easy access to GPS, lots of people no longer need to use maps. Some people even argue that reading paper maps is a skill that should not be taught anymore in school. They say the skill will be useless in the future. This is a dangerous way of thinking. Saying that reading traditional maps should not be taught anymore is like saying that because people can type on keyboards, no one needs to learn to write with a pen. When people become too dependent on technology, they become lazy. They do not have to think or solve problems for themselves. It is still very important that we know how to read paper maps. We can't simply trust a device. What will we do if one day it stops working? So let's find page 13. Page 13 is here. Okay, so according to the passage, people can use maps to learn 1. Distances, 2. Directions, 3. Locations. So we know that, this is the case, and all 3 of them are true. So, as used in paragraph 1, the word superseding most nearly means changing, renewing, replacing, defeating. This will be replacing. In paragraph 2, the author writes, to better understand how it works, imagine that Travis is lost. The purpose of this sentence is to introduce an example, argue a point, propose an idea, or make a conclusion. This would be A. Introduce an example. The author apparently believes that becoming too dependent on technology is crazy and idiotic, frightening and unwise, silly and careless, or lazy and foolish. So this would be silly and careless. What would it actually? Looking again, not crazy and idiotic, not really frightening and unwise. No, it would be D. Lazy and foolish, because he says that humans will become lazy if they do not solve their own problems. So now we are going to be looking at, based on its use in the final paragraph, it can be understood that device belongs to which word group. So science, maths, history, not quite those are school subjects. Construction, formation, creation, these are all synonyms. Not quite. Automobile, machine, vehicle, kind of, but not really. Gadget, tool, instrument, yeah, it will be gadget, tool, instrument. And then the author apparently believes that learning to read paper maps should be taught in school, will be useless in the future, is more important than learning to type, or is less important than learning how to use the GPS. So we can see that in the final paragraph they do discuss this. It is still very important that we know how to read them. So what we can see from that is that the answer would be, well, not quite B, not C, but it would be A, because it says that apparently, so we're inferring. Then page 14 is here. Okay, so 14. On the line. It was late in the second half and the scoreboard spoke to us and declared we were losing. It stared each of us in the face, announcing home 44, visitors 56, with 5 minutes left in the game. Coach Santiago called a timeout. We all huddled up. I need you all to dig deep inside of you and find that extra motivation, he told us. Whatever it is that inspires you, whoever it is that inspires you, think about that. Bring it with you on the court and play for that thing or that person. But remember our common goal. It's on the line right now, and we can still win. This was Coach Santiago's usual inspirational speech. He didn't tell us what to think about, because he knew that each of us had our own beliefs, our own heroes, and our own inner strength. But he also knew that each of us were motivated by the same thing, winning. But there was something different in the way Coach Santiago gave us this speech at that moment. Something in his voice sounded desperate, as though something more than the game was on the line. It was the biggest game of the season. A win meant we would go to the state tournament in Atlanta. But it sounded like it mattered even more to Coach Santiago. We went back on the floor. Me, Sullivan, Jackson, Hernandez, and Odd Whaley. I don't know what they were thinking about, but I was thinking about my grandfather. He wasn't in the stands, but I knew he was watching. On the first possession, I shot a three-pointer in. We stopped the opponents on the other end, then Hernandez made a layup. The next possession, Odd Whaley got a steal and passed it to Jackson for an easy layup. Our 12-point deficit had turned into a 5-point one. The opponents made a jump shot on the next possession, but I hit another three-pointer. Then we stopped them again, and Jackson made a jump shot. With 20 seconds left, The opponents missed one more shot. I dribbled up the court and passed the ball to Sullivan, who passed it back to me. With 3 seconds left, I shot a 3, it missed, and the game was over. Coach Santiago huddled us up one last time. I am proud of each of you, he said. He left it on the line, and I know each of you crossed that line individually. I didn't understand what he meant then. I was too disappointed in my own defeat. Years later, though, it has started to make sense to me. So, in paragraph 1, the passage makes use of which of the following literary devices? Okay, so personification characterized by the attribution of human traits, foreshadowing, repetition, or a metaphor. So here we can see that in paragraph 1, the answer to this will be and we were losing. So it says here that the scoreboard spoke to us, so it will be personification. Okay. Question 2. As used in paragraph 3, the word desperate most nearly means, well, the answer to this one will be very serious. And then question 3. According to the passage, why was the game being played so important? So the answer to this will be a win would make the team eligible to play in the state tournament in Atlanta. Question 4. Which of the following statements best describes this passage? So that would be the narrator uses a basketball loss to explain an important life lesson he learned from his coach. Yep, it would be that. And then question 5, on the title is online, and it refers to each of the following in the passage, except so we're trying to find what is not true. A source of inspiration, yeah. A speech, yeah. A very serious risk of losing, yeah. Part of the basketball court, no. So it's okay. Proofreading. Identify the spelling mistakes. So, during the summer term, Year 6 pupils take a trip to the seaside for an environmental studies week. So this one is going to be seaside, because it should be spelled by S-E-A-S-I-D-E. So replace the second D with an A. Okay. Then, following this, it is quite a long journey in the coach, and sometimes people suffer from travel sickness. So travel should be spelled with one L. So Travel. 3. Don't think about staying in a hotel, as this is an outdoor camping trip. You'll have to assemble. This one has no spelling mistakes for this one. 4. Your own tents. There is no television and radios. Computer games and personal stereos. Stereos is incorrect, so S-T-E-R-E-O-S are not allowed. Allowed should be spelled as A-L-L-O-W-E-D. The meals are prepared on camp stoves by teachers and children, and the children will assist with the washing up afterwards. It's not all fun and games. The trip is supposed to be educational, so it's spelled S-U-P-P-O-S-E-D. 7. And there are worksheets to be completed every day. You do get to work on the beach, looking. So beach is B-A-C-H, for seashells, crabs, and interesting pebbles. It's a great way to improve your general knowledge. Okay, 8. So this one is a passage, or no. Okay, David's apparent lack of sympathy for his opponent was criticised by the journalist, should be spelled Journalist, journalist. 9. The queue for tickets for the concert snaked all the way around the back of the building. This one has building. This one has no spelling mistakes. 10. Most of the protesters blame the government for failing to act swiftly enough. So this will be government, Government. So you need to add an N in between the R and the M. 11. The importance of signs and symbols in early societies cannot be underestimated. So SYMBOLS. Okay, next. Punctuation. So, if Joe managed to pass the exam, his father promised to buy him a new game. So, if Joe managed to pass the exam, comma, because you're separating the clauses. His father promised to buy him a new game. Okay. 2. The colourblind dog couldn't differentiate between the red and blue and green shades. Okay. So the hyphen in between colour and blind is okay. So it's not that. Couldn't differentiate between the red, blue and green shades. Okay, this will be... So you could have a colon after between, because then you're listing. So the colourblind dog couldn't differentiate between the red. So after the, if I just zoom out. So after the, you can add a colon. So the colourblind dog couldn't differentiate between the red, blue and green shades. No. After between the red, blue and green shades. Okay. 3. All of her delicately constructed decorations were suddenly lying in ruins. So this one, all of her delicately constructed decorations were suddenly lying in ruins. So you're not going to... Okay. So this one you're going to have a comma after decorations and... yeah. Okay, yeah, so a comma after decorations. So all of her delicately constructed decorations were suddenly lying in ruins. 4. Bags of rice, sacks of potatoes, and baskets of cauliflowers were transported to the town. Okay, well, this one is going to be... Well, town should have a lowercase t, but this is punctuation. So you could add a semicolon. Bags of rice, sacks of potatoes and baskets of cauliflowers, semicolon, were transported to the town. Yes. Or just comma. And this should be lowercase t. So 5. The sunset over the banks of the river should be lowercase r. Yeah, the river. As the swallows chirped cheerfully. This one... Or in fact, for the last one, this has no punctuation errors. No, but that should be lowercase t, so none. River, this one also has none. And that should be lowercase r. Okay, all of the students had arrived late, but only one was punished by the cruel teacher. Well, students shouldn't have an apostrophe afterwards. It should have, well, nothing, because you're just using the plural for a student, so more than one student. The boys' father, Edgar, was known in the village as an honest and upright citizen. Well, this one is going to be the boy's father, Edgar, comma, boy's father, Edgar, was known in the village as an honest and upright citizen. 8. I have made up my mind and you can't change it now, declared Paula. So this needs a full stop after her dialogue. Then we move on to 9. Tom didn't win the race. Nevertheless, comma, he was content with his performance. 10. I can't believe you're doing this. There are much better solutions to this problem. Full stop between this and there. 11. The rain cloud gradually covered the entire town, growing larger and larger. This one gradually covered the entire town, growing larger and larger. It should be a comma here instead. I think should have an apostrophe, rather not get involved in this dispute as it doesn't concern her. Okay. 13. The premiere of the latest blockbuster, which is due to start in which is due to start in the next few minutes, promises a glamorous affair. We've already seen the cast arrive. We're just so instead of a colon, that should be a semicolon. We're just waiting for the movie's director, Esmeralda Blingley. The atmosphere is electric. That can have an exclamation mark. 16. So tick the box next to the option that is punctuated incorrectly. So the one where the punctuation is wrong. So A, the new cafe, dash, Maggie's tea room, dash, is now finally open. B, after the storm, you'll have to rake up the leaves in Grandad's garden. C, it's the book I've wanted for months, exclaimed Will excitedly. And D, Megan, who was an avid fan, made her way to the rugby stadium. Okay, so first we're going to look at what's correct. So here we know, well, A is correct. B could have a comma after the storm. C is correct and D is. So with that, the answer will be B. Okay, next we're doing best word. So, question 1. Ellie launched the ball into the air and watched it for something split second before racing to first base. It was summer, and that meant rounders, a game which not all pupils enjoyed. So, and watched it for the split second, watched it for and split second, this split second, a split second, or that split second. It'll be watched it for a split second. So watched it for a split second. So that'll be option D. Next. So, a game which not all pupils enjoyed, something of all the green team, because they always seem to lose. Perhaps the other teams had Velcro attached to their hands or superhuman vision, even in bright sunlight. So this will be which not all pupils enjoyed, most of all the green team, because they always seem to lose. Perhaps the other teams had Velcro attached to their hands or superhuman vision, even in bright sunlight. Something, they never failed to pull off miraculous catches and thunderous strikes of the ball. Unless they never failed to pull off, because they never failed to pull off, whereas they never failed to pull off, although they never failed to pull off, while they never failed to pull off. So, this one. So, first we need to look at who it's describing. So, through the context, we know that it's talking about other teams. So, the other teams had Velcro attached to their hands. And they think that, so it's not going to be unless, not going to be whereas, not although, and it's while they, no, not while, so it's going to be B, because they never failed to pull off miraculous catches and thunderous strikes of the ball. Okay, 4. The green team, something their previous round of batting feeling disheartened, having only managed to score 3.5 rounders compared to the yellow team's 6. So the green team were finishing their previous round, will finish their previous round, finish their previous round, are finishing their previous round, had finished their previous round. So here we can see that it's talking in past tense. So this one is going to be where it's talking in the like that mixture between past and present. So it's going to be like in between both. So it's going to be okay, so first we're going to cross out what it can't be. So it still could be green team were finishing. It's not will finish, it's not finish, and it's not are finishing. So for this one, it is had finished their previous round of batting, so it's E. Okay, 5. What they needed now was a moment, something, inspiration, and maybe, just maybe, L could provide that. Or Ellie. Go, Ellie, go. Yes, you can do it all the way. The encouragement lifted Ellie's spirits as she sprinted from first to second base. So this one is that they need, what they now needed was a moment of inspiration. So not moment to inspiration, moment at, moment with, moment in, it's moment of inspiration. Okay. 6. So as she sprinted from first to second base, hardly something to believe that she might get all the way around. Hardly daring, hardly to dare, hardly having dared, hardly without daring. Hardly. So here we know that she's sprinting very quickly from first to second base. So this one is going to be hardly without daring to believe that she, or hardly. So saying that she hardly is not daring. So hardly without daring means that she is confident that she will, that she is daring to believe that she'll go all the way around. So this one will be that she was running hardly without daring to believe. Yeah, because if she said that she was hardly daring to believe it, then she would be unconfident. Or no. So this will be hardly daring to believe that she would get all the way around. 7. The ball, and that's because like the green team is known to do bad, so that's why it's that. 7. The ball something a long time to finally descend, but when it did, the green team's expressions of excitement turned to horror as they spotted the tallest boy in. Okay, so the ball took a long time to finally descend. The ball took a long time. Okay. The tallest boy in their year, there as in possessive, standing directly beneath it, watching, waiting. However, the tension soon gave way to laughter, not cruel, mocking laughter, but genuine disbelief. As soon as Ellie reached fourth base, she turned and looked to see what was going on. There it was, a bird with the ball in its beak. Round her, the umpire shouted. When the yellow team protested, the umpire simply smiled and said, Well, the word's not officially on your team, is it? Question mark. There. And that is proofreading. So work out 983 plus 254. So we can use column method for this. That'll be 983, 254. 3 plus 4 is 7. 8 plus 5 is 13. And then that's 12. So the answer is 1,237. Okay, now just making some space. 573 times 300, so 573, 300. So first you multiply by 0, and that will be 0, 0, 0, extra 0, 0, 0, 0, 2 zeros, and then 3 times 3 is 9, 7 times 3 is 21, 5 times 3 is 15. So we get the answer of I see where we just quickly cross this out. Carry the 2. I got a bit carried away at that one. And our answer will be 171,900. Okay, so the answer will be 171,900. Okay. Next is, right, 7 over 20 is decimal, so 7 over 20, we're going to put it over 100, and we're multiplying by 5. So it'll be 35 over 100, 35 over 100, so we move the decimal places back twice, and it'll be 0.35. Okay, what fraction of the day is 9 hours? And write it in the simplest form, so that'll be 9 over the total, which is 24 hours, and then we simplify, so we can divide both by 3, so you get 3 over 8, and that'll be the answer, 3 over 8. What is the missing decimal number in this list? Okay, so 2.7, and then we have 4.3, the number 7.5, and then 9.1, so we find the difference here. So we can see that 2.7 plus 1.6, so 1.6, and then we can see 7.5 to 9.1 is also 1.6, so 4.3 plus 1.6 will be equal to 5.9. And then our answer will be 5.9. So then we're doing 4 1/4 plus, minus 1 3/5. So 4 1/4, and we're going to put it as a top-heavy fraction. So that's equivalent to, well, 16 plus 1, which is 17 over 4, minus, well, 5, and then 8 over 5. And then this is then going to be both put over 20. So 4 times 5 is 20. So 17 times 5 is equal to 85. 5 times 4 is 20. So 8 times 4 is 32. And then this gives the answer of, well, 85 minus 32 is equal to 53. So then we take the 53 and that will be our answer, but then we can also put it into a mixed fraction because that's how it was given to us. So that will be 2, because it's 2 times 20 is 40, and 13 over 20. Okay, work out 6.48 divided by 0.6, writing your answer as a decimal number. Okay, so 6.48 divided by 0.6, so what we can do is 648, and then divide it by 60. Okay, so now what you can do is, you have 1 here, 4 there, 0. And what we're looking at will be, well, 0 here. And then how many 60s in 480? And this will have a decimal here. Well, we know that 8 60s going to 480, so the answer will be 10.8. Okay, subtract the difference between 62 and 35 from the product of 13 and 16. Okay, so we need to firstly find the difference between 62 and 35, and then the product of 13 and 16. So the product of 13 and 6 will be 78, and then we're finding the difference. Oh no, the product. Okay, so what we got to do is we are going to take, so different. Okay, so first we're going to find the product of 13 and 6. So what we're going to do first is going to be multiplying 13 and 6. So 13 times 6, we can do column method. 3 times 6 is 18. 1 times 6 is 6, so that'll be 78. So that's 78 there. And then that's subtracting the difference between 62 and 35. So 62 minus 35 is 27. And now we find the difference. So 78 minus 27 is equal to 51. And that means that our answer is 51. So 51. Okay, one of the triangles in one of the angles in triangle is 40 degrees, and the other remaining angles, 2 angles, is 3 times larger than the other angle. So what is the largest angle in the triangle? Okay, so we know that there is a 40-degree angle, and we know that there is 180 degrees in a triangle, so 180 minus 40 will equal to 140. And then we know that one of the remaining 2 angles is 3 times larger than the other, so 3 plus 1, because that's the scale, so 3 to 1 is equal to 4. And then 140 divided into 4 is 35. So 35 will be the smallest, but then the largest will be 35 times 3, which is equal to 105. So the answer to question 9 will be 105 degrees. Question 10. The shop reduces its prices by 20% in sale. David bought a coat for £40 in the sale. So how much would the coat have cost him before? So if the price was reduced by 20%, we know that 40% is 80%. Or £40 is the equivalent of 80%. So 10% will be 40 divided by 8. So 40 divided by 8 is equal to £5. So then 100% is then equal to that £5 multiplied by 50. So the answer to question 10 will be £50. Now question 11. Nigel folds a square piece of paper in half to give a rectangle which has a perimeter of 36 centimetres. So what's the area of the original square? Okay, so we know that the perimeter of 36 must consist of, 2 lengths here, which are double the length. So you could almost consider this as a 2x, this is x, and 2x. So how are we going to find the area of the original square is by finding the initial lengths. So we know that, this 2x plus 2x plus x plus x like doing 6x because you're adding them all together. And that must equal to 36. So then x is equal to 6. So what we've got to do with that is, well, we're taking the 6, and we know that the 6 is the length of half. So 12, well, 2x is 12, and that's the length of the original, the original, on one side of the original square. So the area would be 12 times 12, which is 144. Okay, question 12. Rachel buys 3 identical bags of sweets and 5 cans of drink. The total costs £4.90, and then Rosie buys just 1 bag of sweets and 3 cans and pays £2.70. So what's the cost of a bag of sweets? Okay, so how we can do this is we can write out a method. So 3 sweets and 5 cans costed £4.90, and then 1 bag of sweets and 3 cans will be £2.70. So what we can do here is we can make the values the same, or we can find the difference. Okay, so if 3 sweets and 5 cans costed £4.90 and 1 sweet and 3 cans costed £2.70, we can multiply this equation by 3, meaning that 3 sweets plus 9 cans will equal to, well, £2.70 times 3, which is £8.10. And then we know that 3 sweets plus 9 cans is £8.10, and 3 sweets plus 5 cans is £4.90. So if we know that, and then what we can do is we take out values. We know that 9 cans plus the 3 sweets is £8.10. We know that 5 cans plus the 3 sweets is £4.90. So all we have to do here is find what 4 cans is, which is the difference, which will then be £8.10 minus the 4.9, which is £3.20. And then what we can do is we can find the price of 1 can, which will then be £3.20 divided by 4, which is 80p. And now that we know that, we can substitute it into what we know. So if 1 can is 80p, well, we can do 3 times the 80p, which is £2.40, and take this equation, and then we know that £2.40 plus the sweets is equal to £2.70, so 30p will be the answer. So the price of 1 bag of sweets is 30p. Now I'll just clear out some space. Okay, and Tim has 3 apples. The mean, the average weight of the apples is 90 grams. And then when Tim eats the largest apple, the mean weight of the remaining 2 is 70 grams. So what's the weight of the largest one? So if the average weight of the 3 is 90 grams, and then when he eats the largest, it's reduced to 70. Okay. So how we're going to find this is we're going to identify what mass must have been added in order to divide by 3 to get 90. So first we have to do 90 times 3. And that is equal to 270. So the mean weight of the remaining was 70, so that was 140, because 70 times 2 equals 140. Then you do 270 minus 140, and that is equal to 130. So the answer is 130 grams. Okay, in the sequence of numbers which starts 2, 3, 5, 9, which 2359, each number is 1 less than 2 times of the previous number. Okay? And then what is the number immediately before 257? So we got to remember that 257 is 1 less than 2 times its previous number. So it's 1 less than 2 times of it. So 2 times of the previous number must have been 258. And then the previous number must have been 258 divided by 2. So we take out 258 divided by 2 is equal to 129. And that's the answer. Okay, question 15. A plant is growing at a steady rate of 0.2 centimeters every day, and at midday on the 19th of January, it was 6 centimeters high. So what will the date be when it reaches 11 centimeters? So, if it was 6 centimeters on the 19th of January, we know that it still has 5 centimeters to grow. So if we divide that 5 centimeters into 0.2s, we know that that will then be like doing 50 divided by 2, which is 25. So 5 divided by 0.2 is 25. So that means that it will take 25 days. So now we have to add 25 days onto the 19th of January. So we know that January has 31 days. So first we can do 31 minus the 19. So 31 minus 19 is 12. So that's 12 out of the 25. So then 25 minus 12, well, that is 13. So the answer will be the 13th of February. And you can just write that as 13th of February. Make sure that you write the full name, and then because it could be misunderstood, or any errors could take place. Maybe your Feb doesn't look like Feb, and don't write 13/2 because that may be unclear. So then, question 16. A bag contains coloured counters of just 2 colours. There are 20 green counters numbered 1 to 20, and 30 blue counters numbered 1 to 30. What is the probability of picking a counter from the bag which is a multiple of 4? Okay, so what we're doing is, we know that there are 2 colours. 20 green, numbered 1 to 20, and 30 blue. And now we're looking at the probability that it's a multiple of 4. So between 1 and 20, the numbers that are multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. And then going on to 30, that will then be 24 and 28. So we know that these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers come up twice. So that'll be 5 times 2, which is 10. And then the 10 plus 2 equals 12. So the answer to question 16 will then be, it'll be 12 over the 50. But then we can simplify that to 6 over 25. So the answer is 6 over 25. Okay, I'll just clear up some space. Okay, Laths Engineering produces 10 boxes of screws every minute. So 10 boxes every minute. It has to produce 48,000 boxes in 5 days. If its machines work an equal amount of time each day, work out the number of hours which will be needed each day. Okay, so 48,000 is equivalent to how many minutes? Okay, so first we can find the scale. It's like doing 10 multiplied by 4,800. So it will take 4,800 minutes. Then what we need to do is 4,800 minutes and divide it into 60 because it's looking at how many hours will need to be worked each day within the 5 days. Okay, no. So now what we need to do is divide by 5 first. So 48,000 divided by 5, or 4,800 divided by 5 is 960. And then we do 960 divided by 60 minutes. Because 960 minutes will need to be worked each day, and that equals to, well, 1, and then remainder 36, and then 6, so 16 hours. And that is the answer to question 17. Okay, now the final 3 questions. At Frantic Junction, trains arrive at regular intervals on 3 different lines. On the line from A-Town, the train arrives every 15 minutes. Beeville is 12, Seaford is 8, and at 10 a.m. a train from each town arrives. So now we're looking for the lowest common multiple between 3 numbers, 12, 15, and 8. Okay, so considering that it's 15, they'll all be, they'll all end in 5 or 0. So we'll go 15, 30, 45. And now we can be noting which of these fall into a multiple of 8. Okay, 45 minutes. Okay, I'm thinking, okay, 60. That does not fall into 8. 120 would though. Does 120 fall into 8? Yes, it does. 8 times 15 is 120. 12 times 10 is 120. So that will be the next time after 120 minutes, which is 2 hours. So 12 p.m. 12 p.m. Okay. Our fan has 6 fraction cards there. Write down the possible way which he can add 3 or more to get 1 over 2. Okay, so to get 1 over 2, he can add, he could add a quarter to a sixth to a 12th. That could work. Yeah, because that's like doing 3 twelfths plus 2 sixths plus 1 12th. Oh no, plus 12. And then that's like 6 12th, which is a half. Okay, so that's the answer. 1 over 4 plus 1 over 6 plus 1 over 12. Okay, question 20, the final question. 83 is a prime number. If Nancy reverses the order of the digits, she gets 38, which is not prime. Okay. How many 2-digit primes do give a different prime number when their digits are reversed? Okay, so we need to write out all of the 2-digit prime numbers. Okay, so this will be 1, 2, 4. Okay, so prime numbers. We're looking at, well, this will be 11. 11 will give a reversed prime number. 13 will give 31, so that's 2. 14, 15, 16, 17 will also give 71. So this is 3 now. And then 18, 19 will also give 91. Is 91 prime? No, it isn't. So 19 isn't one of our numbers. 20, 21, 22, 23. No, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. No, 30, 31. 31 could count. 71 could count as well then. And then we also have 33, 34, 35, 37, 37 and 73. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So 11 will not count because it doesn't give a different number. So then we're going to have 79 and 97. And that is all of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that is the answer. Okay, so that is everything for Summer School 5. Thank you very much for watching. You've been with Ethan, and yeah, have a great day.
Chapter X, The Terrible Secret. Okay, when they first went to live at the Three Chimneys, the children had talked a great deal about their father and had asked a great many questions about him and what he was doing and where he was and when he would come home. Okay, so they went to live at the Three Chimneys. Mother always answered their questions as well as she could, but as the time went on, they grew to speak less of him, so they're speaking less of him as time goes on. Bobby had felt almost from the first that for some strange, miserable reason, these questions hurt Mother and made her sad. So Bobby thinks that the questions that they ask about their father makes their mom sad. And little by little, the others came to have this feeling too, though they could not have put it into words. Alright, let's have a look at what the first question says. Who made sure there were always flowers in Mother's workshop? We haven't seen that yet. Let's keep reading and find that. So Bobby carried up her tea to a big bare room they called Mother's workshop. But always big pots of flowers on the windowsills in the mantelpiece. The children saw that, and from the 3 long uncurtained windows, a beautiful stretch of meadow and moorland, the far violet of the hills, at the unchanging changefulness of cloud and sky. Okay, so Bobby's the one that's carrying up the tea to the big bare room. It just had a table and a chair. There was always a big pot of flowers, but it doesn't say who's doing that so far. The children saw that, and from 3 long uncurtained windows. Here's your tea. Mother laid down. So this is an interesting one. It looks like Bobby is the one that is definitely bringing the tea up all the time, but I'm not seeing anyone who's making sure that there's flowers in her workshop. Let's keep going. She ran her hands into her hair. Forward to her head. I'm gonna check what the second question says. How does the narrator define Mother's writing? Alright. Covered with her writing, which was almost plain as print and much prettier. Okay, let's see what the answers to this one. Plain and pretty like print. Plain like print but prettier. So it does say that it's actually prettier than the print right here. So I'm thinking for question 142 is let's just look at the cancel ones that we can cancel out. Mother is not the one that's putting the flowers there, doesn't look like. There's no mention of Peter and Phil so far. And if we just keep scanning until maybe we find that they were talking about the workshop at any point. Mother was working so hard that she could not leave even for 10 minutes. Okay, so this is definitely the workshop that Bobby is bringing tea up to. But always, it had hardly any furniture, just a table and a chair and a rug, but always big pots of flowers on the windowsills and on the mantelpiece. The children Okay, so the children saw to that. So I misread this quite a few times. I thought it said children saw that. But the children saw to that. That means the children are the one that are doing it or seeing to it. That means they're the ones that are putting it there. So the answer here is C. Okay, 144. How did Bobby take care of mother? Bobby is the one that's asking if her head is aching. It looks like Bobby stood first on one leg, then on the other. Bobby, come here. Bobby fidgeted. I thought you were so unhappy. Okay, so let's see what the options say. She brought her tea. Yeah, Bobby does bring her tea. Comforted her by bringing flowers. Well, it's all of the children that are bringing the flowers. She talked to her about her father. She took care of the children. So it doesn't look like they're speaking that much about father being here. And it's actually about Bobby's father, not the mother's father, right? So this it can't be C. She took care of the children. There is no evidence of that just yet. We do know that she's definitely bringing tea to her, and that's probably an indication of how Bobby, is. It seems like a she is taking care of mother. Okay, question 145. Why did children stop talking about father with mother? So we were reading that just a second ago. First of all, at the start, it says, little by little, the others start to basically realize that speaking about father makes mother sad. They also grow to speak less of him as time goes on, right? And then we continue down here. It says, I thought you were so unhappy about daddy not being here. It made it worse when I talked about him. So I stopped doing it. Well, that's why Bobby stopped doing it. Let's see if there's anything else about the children themselves. I don't know about the others. I never said anything about that to them. But I expect they feel the same about it as me. So that pretty much explains it. Both children and Bobby stop speaking about it because they think it hurts their mother or makes her feel sad. So Bobby stopped them from talking about him. Nope. They were forgetting about him. No. They talked about him with each other. Yeah, no, it's C here. So C is basically explaining that they don't want to make mother upset. And hurt here, it doesn't have to be physically hurt. You can still mentally hurt someone if you're saying something mean or rude. And while this isn't rude, it's basically making her upset, is what they think. Okay, question 146. Why did it hurt mother when children used to talk about father? When the children used to talk about father. Okay, let's see. I'll tell you, besides parting from father, he and I have had a great sorrow. Oh, terrible. Worse than anything you can think of. At first it did hurt to hear you all talking of him, if everything were just the same, but it would be much more terrible if you were to forget him. Okay, so it's saying it hurt when they hear them all talking about it. He and I have had a great sorrow, worse than anything you can think of. That seems to be all we're given here. The worst will be over when father comes home to us. I could comfort you. And the little kind things you do for me. I don't know if he sees things. Yeah, so let's see what the options say. Why did it hurt mother? When she was afraid they would forget him. No, they just said, she said actually it would be worse if they forgot him. She did not like them talking as nothing was the same, so this seems to be matching what she was saying. It would remind her of the sorrow she and father had, so this also seems to match a bit more. She missed father dearly and his mention hurt her. So these are all of these three are quite, they seem quite reasonable, right? So we need to go back and we have to look at what, if we're able to cancel any of them out from the evidence. So Besides parting from father, he and I have had a great sorrow. Oh, terrible, worse than anything you can think of. And at first it did hurt. Hearing you talk about them as if everything were just the same. That seems to be all the context we've got up here. I'm going to continue reading just to see. So, what this seems to basically be saying is talking about what all the things that Bobby is doing to comfort her mother. That evening, in the hour before bedtime, instead of reading to the children, mother told them stories of games she and father used to have when they were children and lived near each other in the country. Tales of adventures of father with mother's brothers when they were all boys together. Very funny stories they were, and the children laughed as they listened. Uncle Edward died before he was grown up, didn't he? Said Phyllis, and as mother lighted the bedroom candles. Yes, dear, said mother, you would have loved him. Such a brave boy, so adventurous, always mischief, and yet friends, and everybody's in spite of it. And your uncle Reggie's in Ceylon. Yes, and father's away too. But I think they'd all like to think we'd enjoyed talking about the things they used to do. So this basically is just, again, talking about tales of father and mother. So there's no extra context here. We have to basically choose from which of these why the children talking about father actually hurt the mother. And now what we're going to get from this is probably, I mean, we can't actually justify. We haven't got enough evidence to understand whether it's because she misses father, right? We know that he's going to come back. Is that what is what it says on the actual passage here? It says he's going to come back, but it seems to be the sorrow, right? It's a sorrow that is making her unhappy. It's basically thinking about what's happened. So it would remind her of the sorrow she and father had. That seems to match with what I just said. But I think there's a reason why I'm gonna go with B over C, right? Because this line pretty much evidences B. So at first it did hurt to hear you all talking of him as if everything were just the same. So there's no actual evidence that she was hurt by anything else, right? What this sort of line is explaining is at first it hurt, maybe it didn't hurt afterwards. So the only time it actually hurts is when they talk about him as if everything was just the same, which is why the answer would be B there. So 147. According to mother, what would be worse than anything? We went through this already. It was actually forgetting. So the children forgetting their father. So you can see that up here. It would be much more terrible if you were to forget him, right? It would be worse than anything. 148. Why did children comfort mother? Sorry, how did they comfort her? So it looks like all of these options are about quarrelling. And I think it was quarrelling less is what it looked like when I was skimming through. So not quarrelling nearly as much as you used to. So basically they're not fighting as much as they used to. So the answer there would be C, and that's obviously making it much easier on the mother. So what troubled Bobby? Let's see what troubled Bobby. I must get on with my work, said mother. Don't say anything to the others. I wish I could comfort you. I don't actually see anything directly that is saying something is troubling Bobby. Let's see what the options say. She was troubled she couldn't ask questions. She was troubled she couldn't talk about father. She missed father dearly, and that troubled her. She wondered if the trouble would ever end. Okay, I'm gonna come back to this question. Let's go to 150. for now. What did mother usually indulge children in the evenings? She used to read them stories, but this time she seemed to speak about father, right? So instead of reading to the children, right? So let's see what. Yep, that leaves us with A. 151. Where did mother and father live in their childhood? I believe it was the. Let's see. In the country, and lived it near each other in the country. So that is the countryside. So that is option D. And these questions are meaning questions. So let's go back to question 149. What troubled Bobby? Let's see if there's any evidence for any of these options. So she was troubled she couldn't ask any questions. She was troubled about when will the trouble actually end. Okay. So here is where it says trouble. I've managed to find this. So it says, the trouble, said Bobby, in a very little voice. I promised I would never ask you any questions, and I never have I? But the trouble, it won't last always. So this is the question here that she's asking. And she's basically asking, will this thing called the trouble, it won't last always, or it won't last forever, will it? Is sort of the question. So she's asking, will the trouble last forever? So which of these matches that the best? It's not this one. She was troubled. Nope. So she's wondering basically here if the trouble will ever end. And that's sort of the question that she's asking here as well, on that line. Okay, question 152. What does the word indignantly mean? So you can have a look at this in the passage, and that's the best way you can actually decipher it if you don't know what it means. Some of you might know this phrase of righteous indignation. So indignation is sort of anger, right? Or doing anything indignantly is doing something angrily, right? So that's option A. 153. With reference to the passage, what does the word ruffled mean? So imagine a fox ruffling through the leaves or something like that. But we have to actually, so ruffle, that was a verb. We have to actually look at the context here and figure out whether or not, or how it's being used. So I'm going to go ahead and look for it. I'm going to cheat and actually search it on the document. And here we go. It looks like Bobby and laying her ruffled head. So ruffled is an adjective here, against Bobby's shoulder. So let's look at which one of these words could fit in there the best. So her frilled head, her dishevelled head, her greasy head, or her soiled head. So first of all, immediately, greasy and dishevelled are the only ones that make or like fit in to that sentence well, right? I don't think a frilled head is really. I've never heard anyone describe their head as frilled. Maybe their hair, right? Now, ruffled is much closer to dishevelled. It doesn't have any connotations with greasy. So again, if you think about sort of your ruffled hair as well, it would be a similar idea as a dishevelled. If you look that up and also note that down in some sort of vocab book, so you know and understand the definitions of both of these words, they could come in useful in the future. Okay, she ran her head. So answer the following words and phrases as they're used in the passage. She ran her hands into her hair. In the above sentence, what is the function of the word into? Okay, so this is a preposition because if you're doing onto something, onto a table or behind a table, right, everything is, if it's a position, that's the best way to describe a preposition. So into is you're going into something, that's a preposition. Hopefully you should know that from your classes. Prepositions describe like a placement, right? None of the other ones even match. So an adjective describes a noun, conjunction is like an and or an or, right? These are sort of conjunctions, and an adverb describes a verb. It's a preposition. 155, the trouble, it won't last always. In the above sentence, what part of speech is always? Okay, let's see what always is describing here. So, the trouble, it won't last. So you could actually have this sentence without the always. So you could say, the trouble, it won't last, right? But what it's actually doing is always is describing this verb called last. So, if something, she's asking if it will last, meaning will it continue on, right? And always is just a way of describing that verb and actually adding to it. So that would be an adverb in that case, rather than a noun or a verb. Okay, that is the end of this English section. Hopefully that was useful. Alright, looking at the extra questions, and the answer to this is codes. So you have to look for this duplicate letters. So you got F and F, which seems to indicate black. So you know this is going to be F. And then Z seems to indicate 3 stars. So it's going to be FZ, which is option A. For the next one, you look for, again, M and M seems to indicate a white X. So S would therefore be similar to this. And P seems to indicate a square, while W would be a circle. So WS, which is this one. Question 158. Z means right. So down would mean T. And 2 triangles seems to be S. So TS, which is option E. Question 159. V and V seems to indicate the dotted lines on the outside, whereas T would mean straight lines on the outside, O would mean small dashes. This is a V type shape, yeah? The next one, K and K means grey, so F would mean black, so it's going to be V, F, so option C. Question 160. You've got B and B seem to mean black shape, so K would mean white shape. And then L and L seems to mean 3 lines. This has got an L, so KL, option E. Question 161. Once again, you've got 2 H's here. Seems to indicate white sun. U would mean black sun. And then N and N seems to mean 2 suns, whereas V would mean 3 suns. So U, V, option B. 162. So Z and Z. You can see the color pattern white, black, grey, white, black, grey. So what does this pattern follow? Well, it's not actually similar to this or this. It's different to both of them. So potentially there could be something else that's going on. If you got at the bottom, then in the middle, then on the top, in terms of layering, same here. Now with this one, you got the black one at the top, the grey one at the bottom, and the white one in the middle. So I think that's what S indicates, and R would indicate this, right? Where you got the black at the bottom. So what does this match? Well, it has the grey at the bottom layer, as a black on the top layer, and white at the top layer, middle layer. So that's going to be an S type shape. Hopefully that makes sense in looking at the overlapping. X and X seems to indicate star, whereas this is going to be a P for a plus. So A, option A. Alright. Now for the verbal reasoning, these are just pretty much maths. Okay, how you do this, we've already shown in the video hopefully, is you work out what the left side is equal to, which is, if you do 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 8 is 15. Then you have to think, what do I have to add to this 5 to make it into 15? Well, it's going to be 10, okay? So you have to do that for all of them. You have to remember bid mass, alright? So 164, you have to do 3 times 5 first, which is 15. And then you do 25 minus 15, which gives you 10. So the left side is equal to 10. So that means you have to do 5 plus 5 to make 10. So the answer, the missing one, is 5, okay? Again, you do 48 divided by 6, which is 8. if you add 2 to that, that gives you 10. So the left side is equal to 10 once again. What do I have to multiply 5 by to make 10? I have to multiply it by 2. Alright. The left side here, you have to do the brackets first. So 9 plus 6, and then you divide that answer by 3. So 9 plus 6 is 15, divided by 3 is 5. So 12 minus what makes 5? Well, 12 minus 7 makes 5. Okay, so it's going to be option C. 8 times 4 is 28. And you add the 8 to that, that's going to be 35. What do I have to add to 20 to make 35? Oh, I might have made a mistake there. So 8 times 4 is 32, sorry. My mistake. 8 times 4 is 32. Add the 8 is going to be 40. So what do I have to add to 20 to make 40? I have to add 20 to it. Okay. 168. 50 divided by 10 first, because divide is first in BIDMAS. Okay. So 50 divided by 10 is 5. And you add the 9 is going to be 14 on the left side. So what do I multiply the 2 by to make 14? I multiply it by 7. 169. 4 times 5 is 20. And then plus 6 is 26. And then what do I have to subtract from 30 to make 26? I have to subtract 4. Okay, hopefully all of that makes sense. The main thing you have to remember is BIDMAS, okay? This is the order that you do things. So if you always do operations that are in brackets first, then you do any indices. So this is if you have a square, or so like 2 squared, something like that. Then you divide, then you multiply, and then you can do addition and subtraction in whatever order you need. I usually just go left to right. Okay, so if it's 4 plus 5 minus 5, then I do 4 plus 5 first, then minus 5 afterwards. Okay. So for these ones, I'm just going to show you the answer key. I'm just going to put it up on screen. You can just use that to help you. And then same thing for these ones. There's not much I can teach you here. It's just one letter that you have to take out to make a new word, if that makes sense. So if you try to take out the T here to make seam, well, that doesn't work, because if you put a T on this side, nothing's going to work, right? So what you can change is you can take out the S to make team, and then you put the S here and you get spot, so team and spot. So the answer is going to be, S, that is the one that you take out. Alright? Again, the answers are on the screen with what words are made for each of them.